Welcome back. Today we are going to talk about cultural differences, specifically my culture shock when I went to the Philippines for the first time. We went to the Philippines back in 2018, so pre-COVID, and it was a really fun trip. We weren't there for a long time, but I wanted to talk about some of the culture shock that I experienced just being an American and not going to the Philippines or anywhere else in Asia for the first time. The first thing I noticed right off of the bat, just getting into the airport and going through customs and everything, was just how crowded it was. Like personal space, people were all around me and I started to feel a little bit anxious because that's how I feel when I don't have a lot of personal space. But that was one of the first things that I noticed, was just like how densely populated and how
because Manila is like one of the most like densely populated countries in cities in the world.
The other thing I noticed right off the bat was the fact that I towered over everybody.
How's the weather up there?
So I am pretty tall. Even for American standards for women, I am 5'9", and Paulo is 6 feet tall. So when we're together, I don't really notice that we're taller. In America, it's pretty common for men to be around 6 feet, and I have a lot of pretty tall friends too, so I'm just used to it. But when we were walking around in the malls and the streets, that's probably why some people were staring. One, because I am African American and clearly an American or a foreigner, and then also because I'm very tall. The Filipinos are very like short. I don't know what the average height is, but it definitely wasn't anywhere near me. The other thing with being pretty tall and my size was that when we were shopping and when we went to the mall, I could not fit anything. I did not plan accordingly, and I had to end up buying shoes because my feet were swollen from the my ankles and stuff were swollen from the long plane ride, so I needed some comfortable shoes. And it took us hours just to find a shoe in a US size 9.
Yeah, that was tough.
They didn't even go up to a US size 9 for a woman. Like, it was just a whole different number.
We're small people.
It's
not necessary.
Yeah, it took me a while to find that. So just sizing as well. I did see a few cute things in the mall that I might have wanted to like bring back, but I didn't end up getting anything because a US extra small. However, when we went to the Philippines, I could not fit anything because my proportions were also different, just being very tall and like my shoulders being more broad. It was very hard to find anything to fit. I think I came back with only a men's t-shirt and a medium, so yeah, that was something that was interesting. The traffic in the Philippines was ridiculous. Just really the traffic patterns. So you have big buses, you have cars, you have, what are they called?
Jeepneys,
tricycles, motorbikes, and everyone is all together. People walking, everyone is all together. So maybe I'll post a picture somewhere if I can find a good description, or maybe a video from a trip of how the traffic looks, but it was insane. There's no rules at all. So
there's suggestions.
So just think of you're driving straight and just having people like merging like perpendicularly into your car all the time and like cutting you off, and like just there was one intersection where everybody was just like going around, and yeah. So
not a roundabout either. It was like one, road.
It was just like a cross intersecting road, and everybody was just going at the same time. With that much traffic, you are not going anywhere really. You're going, but you're going very slow. Like think of like 5 miles per hour, because there's just so much traffic. I think we woke up one day and wanted to go somewhere, and it was maybe 3 kilometers away, which is not very far. And your dad was like, oh, that'll take us about an hour or 2 hours. It's fine. And we were so surprised. So one of the things that I remember is basically just waking up, getting in the car to go somewhere, falling asleep on the way there, getting out and eating, and then doing it again, like all day, just because the car rides were so long. Another thing that I noticed within the homes are that showers are a little bit different. The house we stayed at Paulo's aunt's house, and it was really nice. Not too different from an American house. The only difference I noticed was the shower. It did have an actual shower, which is not very common in the Philippines, like to have a shower head and stuff like that.
Yeah, well, it depends where you come from, but usually no, not really.
So the showers in the US are usually always enclosed. So they're either enclosed by a shower curtain or glass enclosures. In the Philippines, they weren't. The whole bathroom floor gets wet. So that's something that I wasn't aware of. They have water outages that are very common in the Philippines, and we were lucky in the fact that for the most part, we had water the whole time, but there was 1 or 2 days that they had water outages. And I had no clue what that meant. I'm just used to always having, water. There's a situation where everybody goes and they get these huge buckets of water.
They don't get huge buckets, it's a barrel. You have barrels of empty barrels that you use, and for a certain amount of time, because Metro Manila right now is going through water shortages from their water source, which is a dam. And usually they announce it and tell you that you have X amount of time to fill up your water, and then they're gonna cut off the water to, conserve on the water supply. So everybody gets these big drums of empty barrels and they fill up the water. And then once they cut off the water, that's your water source. So you have a big barrel, and then you have the little, what we call atabo, and it's like a little bucket, and you use that to shower yourself or wash your hands and whatnot. This happens even in businesses and restaurants. You can go into a Jollibee in their bathroom, they'll have a big cylinder, big barrel of water with a tabo there and a sink. And then you just wash your hands by, putting soap, wetting your hands with the tabo, and then putting soap, and then rinsing the soap off by pouring some water on your hands. That's it. It's a way of life. That's how I grew up. We had water shortages and stuff in the Philippines when I grew up, and that's how, I grew up and I was pretty used to it. But Anastasia, on the other hand, was freaking out. She was not used to having no water.
I'll tell a story. His family was very nice, set everything up. They even gave us water bottles to use or bottled water to use just to brush our teeth, because they knew that we were not used to that. So that was very nice. But one night, we were out all night, so very, very hot, because we went in June. Came back and I was like, oh man, I really have to take a shower. I was nervous. I was really nervous to try to shower myself that way. So I was just sitting there, I was like, okay, I have to take a shower. I feel gross and sticky. So I psyched myself up to do it. And by this time, in the morning when they got the water, it was hot. They made sure it was really hot. But by the time we got back home, it was cold, so cold. And so I take the bucket of water and I pour it on me, and I just scream. I'm used to steaming. I love hot showers, boiling, steaming hot showers. So it was so cold that I just remember just screaming because I was not used to it. It was such a shock. And then Paulo runs in there. He's like, what's going on? What's happening? I was like, it's so cold. And then he's like, the water's back on, right?
It was so funny because I took a shower before her and I had running water, and I thought she could hear the running water because it was constant.
That was probably the biggest literal shock of our trip because
it was hilarious.
I was not used to it at all. Nannies and housekeepers are very common in the Philippines. A lot of people have them. Here in the US, we will have nannies, but they don't live with us. Generally, if you have a nanny,
we don't have a nanny in the US, so
we don't have kids, first of all.
All right then. So
okay,
yeah.
But let's put it this way: if you have a nanny,
you rich witch.
If you have a nanny in the US, then you are doing pretty well, or You have a certain income or you're pretty wealthy. In the Philippines, it's not exactly like that. A lot of people do have nannies or housekeepers, and they leave their family and come to live with you 24/7 so that they're available to you. Another surprising thing was that there was fried chicken everywhere. So in America, we have fried chicken in places like KFC, or we deliberately have places that we go to just for fried chicken. Every single restaurant, fast food, had fried chicken. So they have KFCs with fried chicken. Taco Bell serves fried chicken. McDonald's, they serve like fried chicken, like drumsticks, thighs, breasts. Jollibee, literally just I've never seen so much fried chicken just as a normal staple in a menu everywhere we went. I don't even eat fried chicken like that, but it was just so interesting for me to see like how important or how valued fried chicken is in the Philippines.
It's good. I don't understand why it's a shock. Like, to me, coming here and having just some hamburgers on the menus and stuff and having, I was like, where's the chicken at though? And where's the spaghetti?
Later, but when we met, Paula would talk a lot about fried chicken. Yeah,
it's
so
like fried chicken.
It's just
it's me. Like, what? There's no stereotype behind that. It's just me.
I don't know. So, yeah, so basically it's just in his culture. So just maybe I'll post a picture, but stray dogs everywhere. That's not something I'm used to seeing. If there are dogs around, usually they are on a leash or they belong to someone. You're not really allowed in most places, especially where we live, to have a dog with you without a leash.
Like, it's law that you can't have your dog off a leash.
Yeah, so in America, you can't have your dog without a leash. And if there are stray dogs, it's like a serious situation. Like, I've never seen it in person, but they're like picking up and taken to shelters. Just think of walking outside and just seeing like 20 stray dogs, just able to freely roam. You don't know who they belong to. I was nervous. Apparently they're pretty nice and just they walk around like it's their home because it is. Every time I go somewhere new, I'm always interested to see, like how people are, how they interact with others. So when we're in the mall and when we're walking around, I watched a lot and I noticed that in America, we give hugs. Or, even if we don't know someone and we're just passing them on the road, or if we're passing them inside a store, if you make eye contact with someone, you're gonna, make a little smile or say hi, just out of like commonness. In the Philippines, I didn't see a lot of that. Like, people would make eye contact with others, but they wouldn't necessarily say hi, or they don't say hi to strangers as much.
Yeah, stranger danger. What you mean?
Yeah, but if you're in a store with somebody and you make eye contact with somebody, it's not unusual here to say hi.
But in the Philippines, it's just like,
yeah.
Whatever, man.
Oh, and hugs aren't as common, so that's something that I noticed.
Yeah. But you didn't really see like the formal greeting between like the older person and the younger person.
I didn't know about it until afterwards. They were telling me about it, but I don't know what it's called. But yeah, so that you can speak on it, but there's a certain way that you greet elders.
Yes, it's manupo. You grab the elder's hand and then you put it onto your forehead, sign of respect.
Do you say manupo?
Yeah, manupo.
Manupo?
Yeah, manupo.
Okay, so say I'm an elder and you're gonna greet me.
Manupo, how are you doing?
So you do that whenever you see them or when you walk into their house?
First time you see them, that's what you do.
So just simple greetings and stuff like that. Is PDA common? I don't remember.
I don't know.
Okay. Yeah.
I was 5 when I left the Philippines. Was I having PDA then? I hope not.
Generally, multiple people might stay in the same room and share rooms, or there will be more than one generation in a household. So that's something that was more uncommon, or just having a lot of people that share, one house. In the US, most of the time, everybody has their own room. Sometimes when kids are younger, if they're close in age, they might share a room until they like reach like their teen age. But after that, usually they have separate rooms. And we don't generally have multiple generations within a household that live together.
I don't know, for me it's very common to have multiple generations like living in a household. Like for me, I grew up, like my mom immigrated to the United States after she gave birth to me, so I pretty much grew up being raised by my grandparents. And so like on my mom's side of the family, you know, we weren't rich, we were pretty poor. I grew up on like a 2-bedroom, 1-bathroom house with like my grandparents and my aunts and uncles. So that's like probably like 7 people for 2 bedrooms. So I would sleep with my grandparents in their room, and
that's in the Philippines.
Yeah,
right?
the Philippines. And then my aunts and uncles, my aunts would share a room, and then I don't know, sometimes my uncles would sleep in the living room or something like. But it's very common for that. But I find it very strange here in the United States that it's kind of looked down upon if you're like living in a multi-generational household. Like it's almost like at the age of 18 they want to kick you out, because here in the United States that's what they deem as an adult. And so like that's usually the time where kids go off to college and whatnot. But you know, sometimes life doesn't really work that way.
It's just different. So we wanted to make this video not saying that either one is better than the other. We're just, you know, making comparisons. I'm personally just saying, you know, the things that I noticed that was different. So yes, like Paulo said, in the US, once you reach 18, you usually leave the house and go to college, or you might still live at home and go to college. But generally after that, you move out and get your own place. There are still some people that live with their parents until they're married, but generally after that, you know, you start your life and move out. On our trip, we were fortunate enough to get to fly to another beach, or is it an island?
It's an island,
yeah. Yeah, to fly to an island called Boracay, which is a very nice vacationing spot. It was beautiful, by the way. But the thing that surprised me is specifically on the beach. I noticed not necessarily Filipino people, maybe some were Filipinos, but I noticed other people traveling from different parts of Asia being fully covered, like head to toe on the beach. That was something that was unique that I hadn't necessarily seen before. Like, for example, this one woman, she had a hat, sunglasses, an umbrella, a wetsuit, long sleeve shirt, a jean jacket over that, pants, socks, and tennis shoes, just like trying to walk on the beach. It did seem difficult for her to like walk on the beach and all of that, but that's just like something that I'm not used to going out and seeing. And obviously it was because she didn't want to, or a lot of people in Asia and the Philippines and like Asian countries don't want to get any darker. In the US, it's very different. So in the US, when you go to the beach, you wear as little clothes as possible. So if you're thinking of women, you're usually sometimes in a one piece, but most of the time in bikinis, and you're embracing the sun. The difference is, a lot of people in the US, if they're pale, they embrace it and they want to get darker. So they do like self-tanning and spray tans, and then they just like go out whenever it's sunny and just lay in the sun for hours just to, you know, get tan. That was very unique, just to see people on vacation like trying to be on the beach but not really wanting the sun.
Well, I mean, I don't know, I just blame colonialism for that one. That's all.
The way that kids travel to get to their schools in the Philippines. Specifically, we talked about jeepneys, and basically it's, I don't know if you can call it a bus or jeep.
It's an old World War II like truck. It's a big transportation truck.
Like, I saw at least 50 people within those just packed in, and then also just like riding on the back of them. So getting to school, a kid would either hop on one of those or be on a trike. And when talking to your cousin, it was really interesting because she was up at the at the crack of dawn before it was even light outside. And that is just like very common because it will take a while for you to get to school just based on the traffic. Even at a young age, kids are responsible for taking multiple methods of transportation to get to school, and sometimes alone. In the US, we are kind of spoiled in the fact that we have what are called school buses.
Yellow school buses, you know, the prototypical yellow school buses.
Yeah, so they're yellow school buses.
They're a real thing.
Yes. So basically for public schools or whatever, even private schools have school buses too, but it comes in the morning and it stops in front of your house. So typically it comes into the neighborhood, stops in front of your house every morning and takes you to school. I guess I kind of took for granted. I didn't want to ride this school bus. I thought it was uncool, but I took for granted how easy it is to have, you know, a school bus transportation that's gonna pick you up. You don't have to walk. You don't have to you're not responsible as a child for finding your own transportation to school because that's something that's given to you. And then after school, it drops you back off at your house safely. Of course, this video could go on and on and on. Thank you so much for watching. We hope you're entertained. Again, not one place is better than the other. That's not anything that we think about. We're pretty respectful for both cultures, but I just wanted to say some of the things that I found that were a little bit of a culture shock or different. So actually, Paulo is gonna give his take on coming to America. Oh my God. Thank you for watching. For those of you that have subscribed, please keep liking, commenting. We love to interact with you guys. And also, if you haven't subscribed, go ahead and hit that subscribe button.